Hello, everybody. I hope you're having a beautiful day. I had to pull out the OG hoodie. My other two are in the laundry. But I wanted to spend a little bit of time talking about philosophy and the imagination. And I was going to say religion, but I feel like religion kind of deals with more ritualistic aspects and or beliefs and sets of laws. And in this instance, I'd rather talk about a couple of other things in terms of four dimensional thinking. You could think of this as Schrodinger's open box, if you will. But I had a question that come to my mind. Is Adam more righteous than Jesus? And I started to think about it and I got caught in the middle because in retrospect, Adam was created at a time where there was no sin. There was a time of pure holiness. And not only that, technically, Adam created all the names and all the fruits and everything in the garden and everything because it was through the Most High that these things started to get named and the creations of thereof. Now, if you go down to Jesus, the thing about Jesus is he even said in that book of the cosplay, he said that he was born in sin just like everybody else. I don't think people understand this or realize this because if you really pay attention, he said that he needed baptized to fulfill righteousness, which means if he was a spirit from something or a man in a spirit, he still needed a water baptism. Now, I'm not going to get into ritualistic aspects, but I'm just explaining that in a realm, if you really pay attention, Adam is the most revered and hated man on the planet because no matter what religion, because you could go Christian, Muslim, Judaism, any different aspect, even a lot of these different random religions out here, they will tell you that Adam created the fall. It was Adam's fault. But here's another aspect four dimensional thinking. The thing with Adam is when he fell, he had no knowledge of good and evil. So, technically, like when an animal does something according to its nature, he was innocent. But also at the same time, here's where it gets deep into philosophy because I believe that story is an allegory or an algorithm. If you pay attention, Adam went into a deep sleep, and then from his rib, a woman was created. So, from the children of Adam, you could look at that as his people's flesh. So then, when that man has a group of people, that man spirits then weds the flesh of those people. Well, if you look at the serpent like wisdom, well, then that's just saying wisdom got a hold of maybe other people of that man's people because if it's a rib, that's signifying that it's his genetic material and that it came from him, which means it's like the argument of um, genetic versus or nurture versus nature, genetic versus consciousness and feelings, what's taught. And so what would essentially happen is Adam would have been righteous all along, and then people after him from his bloodline messed something up with their wisdom. Because I've told people before, if the Most High is I am, which has been covered a lot, that means the Most High is in every single person, and that wisdom has been destroying other people's I ams to build powerful kingdoms. But then let's go back to the aspect of Yehohanan. I'm sorry, Jesus, the one that you all created in lore. The thing about that story is the man was born in sin, which means technically he was wicked according to lore, but then broke his nature, broke his fourth wall, and then became holy, and then became a sacrifice, something greater than himself, to heal others. So if you basically pay attention to that, Adam and Jesus both did the same thing. Adam sacrificed his original feelings for his people. Jesus sacrificed his original feelings for his people. Because if the Father was to destroy the Son, or however much this goes, that means the man afterwards, who should have had the same destructive spirit as the Father, you saw what was happening to people when they tried to come out and come forth. He said no and did it anyway. And so technically, if you technically look at Jesus according to, if there was a script or a code that says to destroy anybody who doesn't worship a certain God or man, and a man broke out of that script from the inside, then started doing something else, technically that man was so evil and so rebellious that he rebelled against the own darkness and turned to light. A evil so evil that it rebels evil, because if you're evil, you're supposed to follow evil. If you're good, you're supposed to follow good. But in a paradox where Jesus was so evil, he rebelled the evil and turned good, if that makes sense. And so I'm not saying that's a paradox for anybody that can understand my type of four-dimensional thinking. So I'm not coming out saying evil or good, because even that story, the essence of me in my completion is that I have an evil nature and a good nature. But even when I say that, those two words don't even exist. I basically have a spectrum, and that which is pleasurable and that which is unpleasurable is a part of the spectrum. And so I go towards things that I desire and avoid things that cause pain. And so, even back to Adam, if you pay attention, who was more righteous, Adam or Jesus? Because Adam technically created everything, but even if you go to any other man's name, every man created something and then had no power afterwards of the. That's why if you pay attention to a lot of sections, it'll say, where's the other prophets? Where's the elders? Where's Moses? All this other stuff. Because what people are failing to realize is, even if you pay attention to the fourth man in Job, Elihu, when he asks, can you control the women in my house? Essentially, what's being said is that if the Most High is king, then no matter what anybody tries to do or teach, if that individual, this isn't nihilism, this isn't pessimism, this isn't optimism, actually. I am on those sides, I'm giving the blatant truth. If that individual does not make the change, if that individual does not see anything wrong in what's happening, then their Father, their Most High, is giving orders to do that thing. But that's where the dangers of intelligence plus instincts come in. Because when mankind becomes so intelligent but don't know how to deal with that aspect now, then they're running on instincts. And then those are powerful concepts that could hurt other people. And so what I simply mean is that I'll have things that are considered good and I'll have things that are considered bad. But here is why that causes confusion. They will say, a lot of people tell me when I say thou shalt not kill, they'll say it says murder. And I don't even get mad, because technically if you pay attention to that, we have to kill to eat. So scratch what I just said. That's just simply talking about when eating food, not cannibalism, not any other buffoonery. What I'm saying is that if I see people destroying and I have the power to stop that, I don't have to be a marauder to stop that. If I have the power, maybe I can do it peacefully. But if I have to self-defend, and I'll give you another example. If I see a man harming a child and I have the power to go stop that man, I don't have to beat him to death. I can stop him, or, fix the situation. Think of that like true justice. You know what I mean? All the time, like killing the retribution. Okay, like I said, I am who I am and they are who they are. But at the same time, like if I see destruction going on and I don't stop that, then I just chose peace, right? Peace, 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 while watching other people getting destroyed. So which side is good and holy? You see what I mean? It's about my individual feelings. And that's why I'm trying to give a piece of my heart, a piece of my spirit to the world. Because the world can be brutally violent sometimes. And that's why I try to get people to tell you, that's why I'm trying to get people to understand. Because if you look at what happened with Josephus or Joseph, there's a man named Josephus who was a Greek Pharisee and the Torah and all this other stuff. He ended up going towards Rome. When he went to Rome, he gave them the word and all this stuff. He translated it. When he did that, that's a representation of Joseph giving Mary and the boy into Egypt. Because now then, look, Titus and Vespasian are like, oh, we are, whatever they are, Hellenic, whatever. Because they have a story about this, but they're not telling the truth. It's a story in Jewish lore talking about Yochanan ben Zakkai travels through the coffin to go to the Romans and Vespasian. But it was Josephus who did that. He's in history. They've been talking about him for a long time. And Mary is a representation of the women. Not the women, I'm sorry. Mary is a representation of John's people, so to speak, or the people, or Christian. Because I don't like creating groups. I'm just basically saying a part of the Jew, whatever they call them, Jewish, Judaism, Israel, whatever. Then they went to Rome. Rome started getting involved and started tearing the Greek Pharisees off of what they did to John. Because lo and behold, I think Vespasian and Titus and the Romans were because this is how it works. You have America. You got African Americans, Caucasian Americans, Native Americans, Hispanics, Asians, all that. Okay. And Israel at the time, you have Babylonian Jews. You have so many different people mixed, like a United States almost, but through bloodline. You got Babylonian Judaism, you got Persian Judaism, you got Greek Judaism, and you got New Roman people coming in, and Egyptians and all this other stuff. By the time it's at this timeline, dealing with this man named Yehohanan, they call him Prester John, John the Baptist, Yochanan ben Zakkai, all these names. When dealing with Isa too, when dealing with this, what ended up happening, from my perspective, from what I can tell, is that these people, this man died or something, or was crucified, and when that happened, I believe he was speaking Aramaic or something at the time, which would be, I believe he was probably Persian or something else, whatever. They were speaking Aramaic. So when they were dealing with Aramaic and Greek and Hebrew and all this other stuff at the same time, because you have Socrates, Plato, and all them. A lot of them go to Egypt, learn a lot of stuff from Egypt, and bring it back. They started creating philosophy. That's where the word Pharisee comes from. Noah and Pharisee transliterated makes I seem Pharaoh. And so when you pay attention to that, there was another man that came later down the line. His name was Philos. This man took a lot of those philosophers and started putting it into Torah for like mystical stories, mysticism and Kabbalah. So when he started doing that, they created a sect called the Greek Pharisees. Even the Bible was written in Greek. I'm telling you it was. It was in Aramaic and Greek. And I don't know if they dealt with Hebrew or not. I'm not as. So anyways, the point is, when they had did that, when the Greek Pharisees or whatever judged this John dude and sent him off to be crucified, because I'm telling you, that's like if I was running my mouth, then maybe another faction of a race came and was like, and then took me somewhere to a dictatorship or something negative, or put me before a judge and was like, he did all these crimes, but I never did it. I was just simply speaking or something. So then when these religious people got this awakened man tore off, then the whole system, the whole world came and imploded on Greece. If you don't believe me, if you look up Flavius Josephus in his story, his name was something else at first. He changed it to Josephus. So then if you pay attention, Peter was renamed Cephas or something like that because he was a Greek. So when they was running from Rome, because Rome was pissed off, because when you guys look at like names like Yah and Yahweh, the Canaanite God, and Atum and all that, you guys are thinking that like there was just one God. There was a major, like, look in the United States, a lot of people just say God, God, God. If they're atheist, Jew, Muslim, whatever, they say God. Okay, so in these time periods, that's what the names of these gods were. And then you have the lesser gods that bowed to the bigger God. I promise you they did. You can read this in lore, stories, all types of stuff. There was no monotheism. I'm just being honest. Akhenaten tried to bring that in a couple of Egyptians, but that's for a different video. I got a video called Biblical Complete Timeline. So when Josephus traded sides and sold everybody out and then went to the Romans, he then got a bunch of Jewish people slaughtered. Because what ends up happening is now their God is dead. And so now because just like how they're talking about the rabbis coming, the Messianic, they were doing that in the times of Babylon and Greece and Persia and all that. I'm telling you, they were waiting for a Messiah. Then when this Yehohanan dude came out talking about, I'm a God, the particular Roman king and a couple of religious people from the Greeks were upset. When the bigger Romans, this emperor dude became Emperor Vespasian, found out what they did to the Messiah, it all imploded. You guys can research this stuff. There's different Bible scholars that might want to argue with me. Okay, you have your cosplay, I have mine. So, all in all, when I hear about the beginning algorithm, if you eat from this tree, you will surely die. Okay, I told this in a video a long time ago. If God's name is I am, then when wisdom is coming, he's not saying, oh, I'm the Lord God. It's basically saying, I am, and did I really tell you not to eat of these fruits and stuff like that? So when I say that, that was in the beginning before we had any accountability now in their algorithm. Now that we have all that, and technically we're spiritually dead according to their words, and calling on pagan gods everywhere, now the tree in the middle of the garden, the tree of life, is the Ten Commandments, because it draws you from the floods of these concepts, so to speak. And when I say the Ten Commandments, I'm not talking about the Lord thy God. I'm talking about the I am who I am sent me. I am the one. I am the one who's freed you from the land of Egypt, the bondage of slavery. One, but that's fine. So I'm just playing with philosophy at the moment to have some fun, to show you how concepts can be helpful. But as I've said in different videos, I have what's real, the total, in this world. I have reality, me, the one talking, the concepts, the things I believe in, all that. The consciousness in its total. But the consciousness is separate than the body in the sense that this is up here is calculating a bunch of stuff and doing processes, but then me, who needs to pay attention to survive, is I oftentimes look at consciousness, the true nature of it, as duality. You could look at it, even think of it from a machine's perspective. You could have a whole machine with a bunch of programming, but then you could have a second set of programming that coincides with the major set of programming. So, like big source code, then a smaller source code that learns and grows on its own, connected to the bigger source code. So then it's still connected. You have a separation, but you have the new code learning attached to the bigger code that has a lot of knowledge, but they work together, so to speak. And so that's basically a human duality. I have the brain that's doing everything, and then the consciousness that receives words and images and visions, dreams from the brain, and the brain receives things from the sun. The and then you can look at the total. I'm just going to get into this concept for philosophy's sake. You have the womb man, the woman. I like to think of her like the earth. But in all, we are all of women because man comes from woman's flesh. But at the same time, I look at man like the spirit or the whatever's inside, and then it gives guidance to the total, creating the man or son, me. Now, as I've given people advice about this before, that's just for so like I'll give you an example. When people just say God is man and that's not true. You have man and woman, and both have an I am. Man is, and so a man would be like I am, and who I am is man. A woman would be like I am, and who I am is woman. Blah blah blah. But what I'm saying is neither can do anything separate. They come together and make a child. That's what's real. But in reality and the spiritual psychological construct, I look at it like the flesh came from the mom and the spirit or the coding inside the genetic material came from the dad. Although genetic material came from both, but they come together and make the total. And so the reason I don't like using that concept is because for women that can be confusing. But the reason it's not confusing is because then you could think of it as the man grows up to be the spirit and the woman grows up to be the flesh. So in that book, when it talks about like a bunch of different concepts like the daughters of man. And so what I'm telling you is the daughters of man will be all of my bloodline after me. You see what I'm saying? Even if people come into the bloodline through teachings, it was my spirit, because who do we learn from? Our ancestors. So, like for my kids, my spirit teaches them. And then if they go teach people, they came from their mom, so the flesh, but the spirits that's teaching them is from the father. The reason I don't like the idea of the man ruling over the woman is because we are equals, and that's where the fall started to happen. But the reason the fall was necessary and why it's not evil, and why I say people need to stop talking about evil, is because wisdom comes from experience. Like in video games, XP. This is not a video game. Disclaimer. As I've said before, life is not a game. But when you realize that, then you can play the game properly. Real, not a game. Reality, fantasy, spiritual, know how to play the game, if that makes sense. And so I've been watching over a few years, last probably 5 or 6 years, a lot of videos about genetics, DNA, mRNA, uh, genetic uh, molecules and nucleic acids and different stuff like that. And knowledge is power. Just different aspects of knowledge can help us map the world out and understand and conceptualize things around. And so I just wanted to bring up that little philosophy, who's more righteous. And I just like to point something out. I believe Moses was like the Christ. I don't want to argue with people about that, but I'm telling you, which I'm talking about in that fan lore, in that book. If we're going to cosplay in a book, I believe from the book's perspective, Moses was the Christ. And I believe the people after Moses are the sons of his, so to speak. Because if you pay attention, in the beginning, in the beginning, the Christ was the most high. But then we fell from that, from the wisdom of the flesh, which is like Eve, the woman. So I know that can be confusing, but if you can follow along. So I'm going to say something. I don't want to start creating like oppressive women. So a woman is considered, a woman's spirit on the inside is the I am. So it's not, you don't have the spirit of a man. That's why I tell people these concepts and stuff confuse people. Just like me. I don't have the spirit of my mom. I don't have a spirit of a woman. I have the knowledge from my mom. And so, like, I could get different thoughts. I could get different ideas, feelings, but that's just my memories reminding me. Same with my dad. There'll be times I scrunch my lips up or do make certain faces or do certain things or laugh a certain way. I hear myself now saying hey, little fella. Oh my goodness. Or I've been saying schnooks a couple times too, or shucks. I said that a couple times in the past and I was like, now I love my dad, don't get me wrong, but it's weird becoming aware of it and seeing it. So that's why I see a lot of women, they'll be like, oh, I'm strong like my dad. Okay. If that's so, you're still a woman though. So I'm not messing with your reality and your fantasies, but a lot of times when people hear what's real, it can hurt. That's why I tell people you can come out and say something what's real at first, but if they don't agree with that, or so here's like me, somebody could come up and say something offensive, and I could let you know at first, whoa, that's your warning. Hey, I don't like that. That kind of hurts. Now you have one or two choices. You can either go My I am said. Psh. Or you could be like, okay, I respect that. My bad. Let's joke about some other stuff. If both of us are offending each other too much, maybe we should just go our separate way or learn something or, something, you know what I mean? Because you don't want to fight with people. But if you do want to fight with people, hey, video games and stuff, I'm trying to tell y'all, violence is not the answer. Something crazy today. I was at McDonald's with my girl, and when I was at McDonald's with her and we were driving and stuff, there was a dude in the McDonald's parking lot. How it initially happened, we heard some noise, and my girl was like, "He's beating her up." So I opened the car door, and I was like, "Oh no!" So I was finna get in, whoa, get back. But as I was walking up, I noticed it was a dude, and he was down like this, and the dude was hitting on him. And so I kind of got smacked on the head, and I'll explain why in a little bit. But the girl that she heard was next to both of them saying, stop hitting him, he did blah, blah. She was saying something, but she was yelling. So I was like, hey, what the fuck is going on? Knock it off. The dude goes, he's a fucking pedo. He's fucking with a 3-year-old little girl. I was like, whoa. Because as I told you all before, we all have our own I ams. And so in certain situations, you want to use clarity and discernment. Because when I heard that, I put myself in the dude that's fighting shoes. And I thought to myself, okay, if I just got some knowledge like that, especially with one of my peoples or my daughter or something like that, or nieces, I'd probably be wanting to be in his same shoes. I'd probably be like, fat, what's up, player, fat? You know what I'm saying? That's just me. But at the same time, when logic and knowledge kicks in and wisdom and understanding, the law can do a better job than me. Because if he is guilty, then he can get proper justice. And if the dude that's beating him up, based on how these laws work nowadays, might catch a battery or something like that, or assault. And then not only that, we don't know if the dude was actually we didn't know if the dude was a pedo or not. The dude could just be saying that to beat somebody ass or because he feels like something happened or has the wrong knowledge. So I got back in the car and I was like, hey, he beating up on a pedo. I don't know what's going on. So my girl made the statement. She said, I'm calling the cops because we don't know what happened and he could be beating up an innocent man. So when she said that, I was like, that's a good idea. You know what I'm saying? Because you don't know the situation. He could be killing this man and he deserves help. So at the same time, though, as soon as I was saying that, the scripture popped in my head. Boom, yeah, the Samaritan woman. Remember that Samaritan? The dude's getting beaten up, and you always talking about Germans, and you always talk about people that don't got the spirit, and your girl don't even like talk about religion. Look at her, a Samaritan trying to help an innocent, and you up here on camera talk about I'm righteous and mercy and blah blah blah. I was like, all right, I get it. She's more righteous than I at the moment, so I don't know. I just life constant learning moments. And so, life is interesting and we learn as we grow. And even though sometimes we can fall at certain points financially and in the current situations we were in from having a nice car, a nice job, and living good at any moment. But at the same time, I was noticing the position I was in when working with psych care for so long I'll give you an example. I am very empathetic and sympathetic. I am very visual as well. So sometimes I will receive information and start to imagine it in a sense. Now, I'm not saying that where like I just full on go off and I'm saying it's like a keyword search in Google. Certain words come to my mind, and my mind being as analytical as it is and as visual as it is and vivid, sometimes it'll take me places. And so when I say that, I don't mean take me places. Like if I hear dog, arf, arf, I'm going to think dog and then turn around, look, it's dog, right? So sometimes people can say a lot of things and it will kind of, and so especially, I'll give you an example of what I mean. Let's say I'm in a situation where I have a friend, whether it be a guy or a girl. And let's say if it's a girl and she, or a family member even, and she getting beat up by a dude and some crazy shit's happening. Now, if I wasn't exposed to that, my mind wouldn't have to think about that. I wouldn't feel the pain from that, none of that. But if I am exposed to that, now my first instinct is to help. Now, the thing is, I actually tried to help one time with somebody, and the words that came out of their mouth as I was fin to charge like an orc warrior, and give this dude the business. I was told, if you put your hands on him, I'll call the cops. I don't know what to do with that situation. If I could help you and beat him the fuck up or get him off you or something, but you calling the cops on me, and then when the cops are gonna get there, I've witnessed this happen. A man helped a woman, and when the cops got there, no, I don't want nothing to happen to him. He didn't hit me, but was testified against that the dude that beat up her boyfriend was doing the fighting. So then the dude that tried to help got. I'm telling you, you would not believe what happens sometimes with the court of law. And there's problems with everything. Not all atoms split the same, if you will. So that's why I like to teach people also of diverse singularity, because I hear people saying they'll say like God's not in the government or God's left the schools and all that, so they'll never prosper. But because of things like God, people have done insane, fascist, violent things. I've seen people in government say, we're tired of religion and religion's the bad. Ooh. But because of fascist like governments, wicked things have happened. I've heard people say bad things about rap, but rap has done good and bad. I hear people talk about video games, but actually, yes, video games can destroy a person's life, or it can. Me, because of video games, my hand-eye coordination, my problem-solving skills, my intelligence when dealing, almost like an escape artist, because I think outside of the box. I was never really much for reading guides and cheats first. I would try to figure it out for a long time, and then if I start to get irritated, then certain things I will look up. But that's where a lot of my strength and a lot of different strengths come from, because it even isn't just about video games. See, right then and there, life is a spectrum. I could say, oh, it's video games, but that comes from people who hunt and gather. That comes from people who maybe type all day and have to, maybe other people who work on assembly lines. It comes from the person's willingness to perceive and be aware of and be proud of the things that they do. So when I say proud, even ego and pride, I don't think destroying ego and pride is how you become holy. I think refining those things is how true self enlightenment and true self wisdom and understanding is found. Like, understanding those things is how those things can help oneself. And so even see when you see me talking about philosophy, this is basically how my mind works. I am very level-headed, but at the same time, my mind is like, and that's the beauty of life. Certain people are surrounded by and they go mad, but that's because they take it there untethered, so to speak. So back to the duality and the idea of the consciousness and the smaller consciousness and the bigger structure. And so if the one that's tethered, the consciousness, isn't tethered and runs off into infinity of a million concepts, it loses its literal self and becomes something new. If when becoming something new, it loses its original source, that's when it loses itself. So I hear people talking all the time, the source, what's in each person. So even if you talk to atheists, you ask them without all the rhetoric, without all the parents down to the children, and even stuff like that has a more spiritual meaning from my heart. So I'm not saying that book is just, for me personally, when I hear things like the sins of the parent pass on to the children, because I talked about this before, the environment, what I can teach goes to the children. And so if I'm a religious nut and teach a bunch of crazy stuff and fanaticism, then the children pick up on that. But even the children have a choice. They either have a choice to follow that or a choice to break away. So that's essentially what I'm talking about when I say that a person is affected by genetics and environment, but also they are their own person and have the choice to choose. And so just the Ten Commandments, you know what I mean? And without all the, it's as the I am, because once you put that source inside, you have the basic source, but then you have also before that, well, you know, you have great. I have a special source. I call it I am gracious salvation, or I am gracious. I will be, or I will be gracious, because you can have I will, and that can go off into infinity, whatever, and you can will whatever. But with graciousness, then will is blessed, because then your will is to do graciousness. Yehohanan, Yehovah. So I just like playing in philosophy sometimes. I've got videos in my science section, data and science, but I like science to a point. I like science that isn't harmful, like creating weapons that could, yeah. The irony of that also is that if you pay attention to American politics, they set out a message called the war against weapons of mass destruction. But the country that has those most weapons is the people that went to war against the people with weapons of mass destruction. It's like a psyop. It's funny. It's ironic. So, yeah. What you doing? What you doing? I hear you over there creeping. I'm just chilling and relaxing. I love you, baby. Good night. So yeah, just a little bit of philosophy and whatnot. And a little bit of love tonight. He gets jello, very jello. Like again, like he'll usually come and give me a bunch of attention, but you see how he's like, of course he's asleep, but normally he'll get up and just come closer. But since I'm giving him attention, he doesn't like that. That's Dracula. I caught him, and I forget where he comes from. This is Flash for Columbus, because he likes to discover violence. And that's Dracula, because he tried to bite my neck when giving me love. It was like little kisses and bites. It's funny watching him be so calm and peaceful, because normally he's aggressive. So when he's chilling like that, it's like, yeah, but all right. So I just wanted to talk a little bit of philosophy and get that stuff out there. And a lot of times in my video descriptions, I leave what I call the code or source code to my heart, and I like to give it out to others if it helps you or whatever. The reason I like to call it the covenant, but even that can be, people like, you broke a covenant. Oh, but I just like to call it the word, dude. It's words, and you use them when you will, use them how you need them to help you walk that narrow path, because there's a lot of crooked paths out here. And when they wrote that the bad will become the good and the good will become the bad, I guess that's true in a sense, because neither are real, and they just flip-flop each time over and over. But when one wakes up and learns from their own perspective, they're gonna accuse me using pronouns. I might get accused of being drunk from how much wine I'm dispensing. But anyways, you know what I mean? When you look at the Bible, you can understand the historicity of it, but if you're gonna read the actual Bible, I told people before, mythologize it. When you see the Lord God, use I am, or who I am, or whatever, that which I am, however you want to conjugate it, or big Lord. And when you see Jesus and stuff like that, you can say who I am, or you can say Yehanan. The reason I say Yehanan is because that's his I am that they're perpetuating. The reason people can't argue with me and say that this is a lie is because you can look up the two most prevalent names in Spanish and in English, which was the two, Rome and Greece, or however you want to look at it. Rome and Europe, Italy and Europe, is John and Juan, which is Jehovah and Yahweh. I'm telling you, this is transliterations of that. John the Baptist and Juan the Bruce. I'm not swagger jacking right now. Europe owes me, I think, that $400 million diamond from the Queen's helmet that they took from Africa, and the rest of African Americans all their reparations. And Africa. The Belgium, I'm sure you're going to be paying the Congo back and everybody else back what you did. The Portuguese and Spain, you're going to be paying back Ethiopia for the civil wars and the stuff you caused. I will not be mocked. My judgments are just. I do not speak in vain. From philosophy to the word and spirit. But anyways, yeah, you guys can do your own research and check these things out. Back to what I was saying about maybe biblical scholars and theologians might try to include theologians. Go look up where the Theos of Greece came from and who the Greek name of the Greek god in the Greek Bible was. Theos. But a man switched that over time. William Tyndale, thank you. He told the truth. But yeah, he put Jehovah and Yahweh back in that book, and the Pope didn't like that because that's a transliteration of I am gracious and I am who I am, I will be. So, yeah, call it a redemption story, if you will. They will say he is John the Baptist resurrected. He will come back with a name they don't understand, Juannie, because even in retrospect, they have Nini, the N-I-N-I, and then they have Yah. So if I say Yahweh is JB and my name, the word agrees, the spirit and the Most High, because I first heard use my fire come out. Then I went and researched and was reminded it's I am. I was like, oh yeah, they kept saying Moses is dead, Moses is dead. The faithful witness, Moses and John. Because Moses brought Yahweh, a transliteration of my name, and John brought my name, JB. Does everybody see what I'm saying? So, on the sixth day, I was born in, 1900s. On the seventh day, I will be. Keep the day of rest holy. It started around 4000 BC. Atam from Egypt. Me and Narmer, 1,000 years later, decided to spread all the way to Canaan and Babylon with conquering. Then a man named Mentuhotep had to change this and fix it. I like to call him Ham or Abel. But then the Hyksos came in and started attacking Egypt in the 1900s. The fiery falcon appeared after Mentuhotep, the fiery falcon, Yeshua. He had to fix a bunch of stuff. But these are just transliterations of saying the salvation of Yeho, Yehoshua, Yahshua. Like, because Yeho, Yah, the vowels and stuff I'm trying to tell y'all, it all goes back to JHVH, JV, JB. So, the word. But the reason why I say they can't argue me is because if you research where J came from, it used to be Y. If you research what high V used to be, it changed to B between French and German, then later down to English. Even the Anglo-Saxons, they took over the British and the Irish. They became English and then English, vowel switch, but consonants seem to say the same. But back to the Juannie thing. My name, Juannie. I didn't just come up with Juannie. That was my name. That's what my grandma called my dad. That's what my grandma and mom called me, Juannie. That's the literal name. I didn't even realize that. Then, JB, Juan Bruce, John the Baptist, Yehohanan Ben Hakal. It all comes back. So like I said, all this copyright, stealing. Did y'all know that they used Prester John, that idea, to go convert the Mongols? Just like I said, they tried to convert the Ethiopians and all this other stuff to spread it around. And created wars in Asia and Europe, and then wars in Africa, civil wars. Then they keep saying we sold ourselves. No, whoever keeps saying we sold ourselves, they use guns and stuff, bro. They're trying to switch history up. I think Akhenaten was Joshua, monotheism, Atenism, because you have the Amun, the Most High, which was Atam from the beginning. Because Atam, Mayat is a transliteration of Atam. Then you have the fiery falcon, Hemetics, which led to the phoenix in the Middle East because of because me and Norman, when I said he spread the bird, Mayat, because it's the two birds. You have Mayat and then the falcon from Noah, me and Norman. But when it spread, even that Enki and Enlil came from Mesopotamia. No, it didn't. Enki, if you go research Mentuhotep and his reign and the Falcon of Mentu and Mentu was pleased and all that Hamitic chemitics chemistry came from that. Kemet, they had that first and they took it when they invaded Egypt. So then what ends up happening, you have Amos, who was Egyptian. They said the Egyptians was evil. But the Hyksos created pharaohs, the Semitic people, shepherd kings. Then after that, they tried to bury Amos, which is Moses, and Akhenaten, which is Joshua. Netin, Yahoo, the prophet Nathan, Yehohanan, Jonathan. They're taking Egyptian stuff and carrying it off from Greece into Canaan and Israel over and over and over. The Babylonian, it goes way far back. So, anyways, I'm just trying to transliterate and show people as much as possible to tell you once you start to research and break away from that 2D cage, that 1 and 0, good, bad, on and off bullshit, and become new and awaken, you can see historically how it all ties together. Why I say the Bible is like a beautiful story when you read it right. When I say that, I'm not talking about in totality. You're the beautiful story, and what you do is you take certain fruits from it to live. There are certain scriptures that give me strength day and night. Sometimes when people talk stupid, and I know what I know now, and I know I'm reading it and picking up on it, on the inside I will say, I didn't listen to Bell. I'll say, I'm not a hack. Don't think me a hack. I am understanding it on your side now. It's like before I talked about this, like ultra instincts. Before I was clouded, so certain lines of code was being carried out outside of the covenant. But then once the clouds were removed and I am aware now it's working together, the total and the consciousness, not seeking to destroy my world. Because what is me, myself, my, isn't that me? Put no gods before me, who I am. So I am but an angel of who I am. I am but an angel of the Lord, the Most High. So I am who I am for me, the God of who I am. But then to you all, I am an angel of truth, one that I suggest people start to understand. Because I told you all I could tell you 1,000 things. But if one or two helps, use that. And that other stuff, it's not for me. You say, you know what I'm saying? So I got a lot of videos and there's different aspects: science, religion, technology, current affairs, politics, spiritual matrix, all that. I try to stay up to date and current and understand and read and learn from many sources. Blog, even outside of accredited websites that are accredited for a reason because they're a part of an association or organization which is owned by somebody somewhere. Different blogs, different sites, accredited sites, education sites, organizational sites, federal sites, because then you can, like I said, understand how it all connects and get the rocks within the shaft around it, if that makes sense. So stay blessed, and I love you guys.